Greetings and welcome to another edition of New Hampshire Veterans Speak Out, sponsored by New Hampshire Veterans for Peace. And welcome once again, Richard Murphy.
Hi, Will. Good to be here.
U.S. Army, Vietnam, and Will Thomas, Cold War, USS Okinawa, 1961 and 63.
Yeah.
Well, here we are once again, and first let's make a couple of announcements. Two leading lights, if you will, skeptics of government policies, and particularly when it comes to war, died last week, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And the first one was David Halberstam.
Yeah.
Now, Richard, I'm not sure you
Well,
said
not
you...
only was he a skeptic, but he was a great reporter who actually went to Vietnam,
Well, that's right.
stayed in Vietnam, and as you were saying earlier, he was asked they tried to kick him out of Vietnam in 63 or 4 or something like that, long before we had the big invasion in 65.
Exactly.
As troops
It was actually President Kennedy who
wanted
didn't like in late 63, shortly before he was assassinated, that the call went to the publisher of the New York Times, remove Halberstam.
Oh yeah, and Kennedy did that?
Yeah, and to
Kennedy,
their credit...
I wonder if he was an anti-Semite. I often thought he was.
Well, no, but the owners of the Times were Jewish, I think.
Yeah.
So, is it Sulzberger? I'm trying to remember. But
sounds
anyway,
right.
so we recommend The Best and the Brightest
Oh, yeah, that's
by
a
David
very good
Halberstam.
book of
It's a
Vietnam.
terrific, tremendous account of how particularly professors, former professors at Harvard and Yale and other places who were advisors to Kennedy,
Sure.
who had, supposedly they were the best
How
and
they
the
got
brightest.
it all wrong.
Yeah, they lacked wisdom. They lacked understanding of Vietnam, its culture, its people, its history.
It's just like Iraq. They didn't want to know the
Exactly.
culture. They didn't care about the people.
Exactly.
We all belittled the people.
And
the
so
culture.
one of the things about Halberstam, he said, and this is great, think of the reporters today, think of Fox News, and even CNN. The
Makes
job
me
of the
sick.
reporters in Vietnam, wrote Halberstam, was to report the news whether or not the news was good for America.
Yeah.
And to the question,
That's what news is.
yeah, exactly. To the ambassadors and generals, on the other hand, it was crucial that the news be good, and they regarded any other interpretation as defeatist and irresponsible. Of course, like us, we are called
Yeah.
traitorous and,
Oh, of
and
course.
people who are seeking the downfall
Yeah.
of America and the defeat of our military.
Well, I think this is new, though. I don't think it was that bad. They didn't go to those extremes during the Vietnam War. If you did they? Oh, I guess they called
Well,
it
some of them.
commie.
Yeah. But anyway, so he spoke truth to power. Now, another fine writer, humanitarian, humanist,
Yeah.
who died also a couple weeks ago, was Kurt Vonnegut.
Who was, in fact, a soldier during World War II.
Exactly. I think probably his most famous novel, I don't know if you've read it or not, about
Yeah,
his
Slaughterhouse
experience,
Five.
Slaughterhouse
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
This, by the way, is called, some of his short stories,
Welcome
Welcome to the Monkey
I
House.
don't believe I read that.
He's got so many. Breakfast of Champions was
Yes,
another
yeah.
a great one. But the story about his being captured and being a POW in Dresden, Germany, and then when the British and American bombers came and firebombed that city, which had no real military
None.
value.
It was a great medieval town.
It was payback for
beautiful.
Coventry and other places, including,
Yeah.
I suppose,
yeah.
Parliament in London. But he spoke truth to power. He was very much a person who believed in this country. At the same time, at the end of his life, he was very cynical and pessimistic because of what was
you gotta
going
be
on.
if you live in this country.
And, well, he said here in one of his quotes, like my distinct betters, Einstein and Twain, I now give up on people too. I am a veteran of the Second World War, and I have to say this is not the first time I have surrendered to a pitiless war machine.
Right.
My last words, quote, life is no way to treat an animal, not even a mouse. He was kind of Mark Twainish. And,
Yeah.
and by the way, he writes here, napalm came from Harvard,
Right.
period,
Right.
veritas, which means
Yeah, the truth.
the truth. Our president is a Christian, so is Adolf Hitler. What can be said to our young people now that psychopathic personalities, which is to say persons without consciences, without senses of pity or shame, have taken all the money in the treasuries of our government and corporations and made it all their own?
Not only was Hitler a Christian, he was a Roman Catholic and
That's right.
never excommunicated by the Roman Catholic
Never.
Church. No,
Okay.
Pope Pius XII did not ever excommunicate him. So he was still in good standing when he died.
Okay. By the way, this quotes I used comes from his last book, Vonnegut's last book, A Man Without a Country, a memoir of life in George W. Bush's America, which I've seen,
a recent publication.
but I haven't read it yet. Perhaps I will buy it in tribute to Kurt. By the way, we were traveling a couple of years ago, my wife and I, throughout Europe. One of the points through Germany, besides Nuremberg and Munich, I said, we have to go to Dresden. She said, well, why? I said, in a sense, it's to honor Kurt Vonnegut and all those innocent people who were killed.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
70 or 80,000 of them.
Yeah, his job was, he was down at slaughterhouse underground.
Slaughterhouse fire.
Yeah, and his job was to go and take bodies and throw them later into big pits.
No, but I mean, he hid in slaughterhouse.
Well, he was working down there,
Yeah,
actually.
right,
Yeah, but for the Germans who had him as a POW.
Right. He was a prisoner.
So anyway, okay, so that's Kurt. And then we have the story, you have the story of two people who we think, were used by the Pentagon,
there's
used
no
by
question.
George W. Bush.
We used to think that. Now we know that they were. There's no question.
And who are these two people?
Well, it's Jessica Lynch, who they tried to make into the female Rambo of the Iraqi war, the Bush administration and the Pentagon. When she was actually ambushed, they were not a combat unit.
Right.
I don't know what kind of unit they were. I've forgotten that. But they were not a combat unit. They were driving along. They were ambushed. The last thing she remembers is they were getting ambushed, and the car smashed into the car in front of it.
The truck, I
which
think it was.
happens all the
Yeah.
time, the truck.
And she was
She
injured.
was unconscious.
Right. But
She woke up in a hospital.
She never fired her
Never
rifle.
fired her weapon once.
Right.
And the story is that she was out there blazing
Right.
away, killed 7 or 8 of the enemies who had ambushed her. She didn't, right away she denied it too. She never played the game. And the idea was that they sent her to the hospital. The Iraqis did this. They took her to the hospital, to an Iraqi hospital. They took care of her. Her wounds were mending. I think she was only in there a few days. And then the Navy SEALs attacked this hospital. And they claiming that they received all sorts of enemy fire from the hospital, and there were no enemy soldiers in the hospital. There were no Iraqis in the hospital. They had left the day before the attack, which I wouldn't be surprised if the SEALs knew that too when they went in.
Yeah, and they
knew it
filmed
was
everything.
clean.
They filmed everything.
They filmed it all, and it was just a great grandstand play,
Yeah.
all a lie,
Yeah.
as Jessica Lynch told
Well,
us.
as the whole attack on Iraq, on the whole war,
All a lie, yeah.
based on lies.
And then the Pat Tillman story, a football player, I guess he came from
Arizona.
Played for Arizona State, I think.
And then
In any case, he left, joined the Army as a patriot after the Gulf War. I mean, not the Gulf War, but 9/11.
9/11.
And he was sent to Afghanistan. I believe he was sent to Iraq
He was.
first.
Well, I'm not sure. He may have been.
So
but,
in other words, he was on a second tour in Afghanistan?
second tour in
Okay.
Afghanistan. I
So he went
believe.
to Afghanistan, then he went to Iraq, and when he was in Iraq, I don't know what he thought about it the first time in Afghanistan, but the second war he went to Iraq, he knew that this war was a lie. It was a
Right.
fraud, but to quote him.
Like you realized
called it a
very early
fraud.
when you were sent to Vietnam.
Well, yeah, a few months, maybe
Yeah.
a weeks into it,
Yeah.
I realized it was a complete, but it was too late then.
No.
Once you're there, it's too late. But anyway, so he mentioned this to a friend of his who was an officer, and I think that this word got out because he was not an officer.
Right.
He was just an
Corporal, I
enlisted
think,
man.
yeah.
And I think the word got out that Tillman is a lefty, or at least he's going to the left. He's not a a Ronald Reagan type
Yeah.
hero, if you want to say that. And so consequently, he went back to Afghanistan. They were out on some mission, and they split into 2 groups, which of course is a very big mistake to always make whenever you split up your force. But anyway, that's what they did, and the second force, who was trailing them, opened fire on them. They were leading them and killed him. And I believe his last words were, cease fire, I'm blank, blank, Pat Tillman. And then he got shot in the head and killed. And the United States government declared him a hero. The Pentagon did. They gave him the Silver Star for valor, which actually a medal for gallantry is what it is. But they said for valor. And they thought it would rest there. But the mother, Pat Tillman's mother, wanted to know what happened to her son. A legitimate question.
Of course.
And she wasn't getting any answers, so she started pestering her senator, which I think is McCain. I think that's where he's from. But anyway.
Yeah.
And so it comes out that, yes, indeed, the whole thing was a lie, that he was not ambushed, as they said, and was not killed by an ambush. He was killed by his own men.
Friendly fire.
By friendly fire, and not only that, but some of the
So-called.
people in the group that attacked him knew it was him. Said that they were pretty sure they knew. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
if they even said
Yeah.
pretty sure. They were sure it was him, and they fired anyway, as they'll do when you're a nervous wreck. But I think there was a 60 gunner in there who was just shooting everything. And that's what they tell 60 gunners to do.
Mm-hmm.
When you get in a firefight, you just keep firing.
Mm.
And they don't really wait to find out who they're firing
Well,
at.
but the bottom line is that our government, our leaders,
Lied.
our Pentagon,
Again.
lied to the American people and tried to present these two individuals as heroic figures
Right.
whose purpose was to spur on the patriotism of the
Yeah.
of the public. Of
Be
the,
like Pat Tillman.
yeah,
Be
yeah,
like Jessica Lynch.
right, exactly. It's just so despicable. Well,
And all they are is just casualties of a, well, war is just like this all the time anyway. This is
Exactly.
what war is about, mistakes.
well, and speaking of well, war, and I just took a trip to journey to the UK, United Kingdom, Britain, and while there, realized, of course, knew before going that we would be under surveillance, as are all people now.
Right.
It's far worse than the United States, although we're getting there, as I understand it. Okay.
Yeah.
But one of the things we decided to visit, one of the places, was the Houses of Parliament, the House of Lords and the House of Commons. In order to get into the building, we had to go through 4 searches, 2 body searches,
Strip
metal
searches?
detect, not strip search, but we did get into the House of Commons for a brief time, and then the session ended, and we were told to get out, basically. But in looking at this, oh, by the way, there's some protesters in front of Parliament, right between Parliament on one side and the Westminster
Are
Avenue.
they there daily?
They were there 2 days. We were there. We were
Right.
going to walk over, and the traffic. We were going into the Parliament building, and we couldn't make it at that time. But they
Oh, that's too bad.
but they were there. We flashed them the piece. They flashed us back. So that's.
Good.
One of the things we should mention too is the surveillance in England is getting even better, worse.
I'd call it worse.
They have, the British government is considering adding lip reading technology. Okay, so in other words, they will be able to identify, they claim, terrorists and criminals by watching what everyone says, reading their lips. Okay, it's a project being pursued at the University of East Anglia in Norwich, England, at this time as we speak here. So they would help surveillance systems spot people planning a crime or terror attack by literally watching subjects' lips for clues.
So if they were watching me and I said,
Osama, yeah, oh yeah, right.
they'd know that I said that George Bush is a weasel?
That's right. So yeah, once it finds
Hence
someone
the
speaking
W.
certain key words or sentences, the system would automatically send an
Click on
alert to the nearest cops, okay?
Murphy's at it again?
Security agents, to question you, all right? Let me see. Everyone will be subjected to this, the lip reading, okay? That's that scene in HAL, the Space Odyssey, 2001, where the computer HAL
Yeah,
does
speak about
does tell the astronaut, his name was Dave, was planning to disconnect him because he can read lips, and so what happens to Dave, he can guess.
Right.
So imagine a place where you can not have a conversation. You step out your front door and you're having a conversation with your neighbor or whatever, and the government is reading your lips.
Yeah.
And
then
knowing
you're arrested a few minutes later.
exactly.
Dragged away.
That's a democratic, free country, of course.
Yeah.
So,
how do the citizens of England like Tony Blair?
oh, I should have mentioned, about as much as they like, as we like George Bush here.
That much?
Oh, yeah.
I hear there's 23% of the people in the United States who like George Bush. I think that's very high.
Yeah, Blair is not
How
well
could
liked,
anybody
and
like
they want him to leave actually office early.
Yeah, they
But-
want him out of there now.
Yeah, yeah, and he's stalling. So, anyway, there are all kinds of things.
Bush is stalling here.
Of course.
This surge is a stall. So much
Oh,
for a surge.
the other thing about I told you about the X-ray firing cameras. They could have cameras
Oh,
set
yeah,
up,
right.
and they can actually literally see through your clothes
Yeah.
and identify if you're carrying a grenade or weapons or whatever. Another thing, London police and councils are considering monitoring conversations in the street using high-powered microphones attached. They have these cameras everywhere in London looking, but they would have these microphones. so they'll be able to pick up, quote, aggressive tones on the basis of 12 factors, including decibel level, pitch, and the speed at which words are spoken. So if you're speaking too quickly and too loudly, you're a suspect.
So is it safe to say that although you were enjoying your vacation, you were becoming paranoid?
You could really. I mean, after a while, I suppose I did forget, but it's true, and that's what's going to happen here.
Yeah,
it's already happening.
Sure, it's already
I'm going to
happening.
Washington, D.C. I think that's...
I'm sure it's happening. They're not going to tell us it's happening. Otherwise, we'd keep our mouths shut all the time. We'd only talk now
Exactly.
when we're on TV.
So that's designed to stop, quote, terrorism, okay? But maybe the real terrorists are somewhere in Washington, D.C., in various buildings. Well, okay, what about the bill that Bush has got, the Iraq and Afghanistan supplemental funding?
Well, I wanted to just make a point about what happened there. In early April, Obama and Murray,
Yeah.
two senators,
Oh, that's right, yeah.
introduced a bill to go along with a supplementary bill, an addendum to it,
Right.
and which it said that, in which it said 1 cent of every dollar given would go to the Iraqi veterans coming back, the wounded veterans,
Right.
because they're being short-suited as we speak. All the veterans
Of
hospitals
course.
are short-suiting everywhere. And Thad Cochran, another senator from Missouri, I think, said he objected. Now, this was not a vote, but evidently in the Senate, if one senator objects to
Right.
an addendum,
Right.
then that's the end of it. You don't vote on anything.
Exactly.
So consequently, and this was going to raise approximately $100 million for the Iraqi veterans coming back wounded and whatever else. And then there's another little bit to go along with this, although nothing to do with that particular bill, which never made it to vote.
Mhm.
And that is that over 22,000 Iraqi veterans in the United States have been turned down for compensation for their wounds or injuries, or PTSD in particular, under the guise of having a personality disorder. So in other words, you come in, you're not sleeping at night, you're having flashbacks,
Yeah.
startled responses, and all this stuff that you get when you have PTSD. And you report this to your doctor
Right.
at the VA, and he says, this is probably a personality disorder that you're suffering. So anyway, 22,000 have been disregarded. They can't get any compensation.
That's criminal. That is criminal.
Well, it's unbelievable. And one of the guys that they did it to, although they've reversed his ruling because of the fact that this got in the Nation magazine, and it got too much publicity. I don't know if it's been reversed, but it's being reviewed again,
Okay.
re-reviewed.
Okay.
And that is that he was standing guard in Baghdad when a rocket hit the building behind him, missed by about 2 feet. But he's deaf because of the
Right.
concussion, the blast, and he had some minor injury. He survived, anyways. But he obviously deserves compensation. He has PTSD. I think most people that have PTSD, if a rocket landed 2 feet from their head, they probably would for a long
Oh,
time.
yeah,
They'd be
definitely.
nervous in or out of the service.
Definitely.
Well, anyway, this guy was in the Army for 7 years without any disciplinary problems, without any sign of a personality, whatever a personality disorder might be. And if these 2,000 people have this personality disorder, wasn't that spotted when they were taken into the service? Hey, we got this guy with a personality disorder, but let's
Yep.
take him anyway.
Right.
We need the guy.
Exactly.
We need warm bodies. So anyway, this guy was turned down, and then it turns out that the reviews made on these 22,000 people I just spoke about earlier were all reviewed by the people who originally gave them the personality disorder. So in other words, it went right back to where it came from, and they sent it right back and said, oh, it's perfectly all right, everything is fine.
Catch
So
20.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
catch 22.
So there was no review.
No.
I mean, re-reviewed, you could review
Yeah.
all you want. And it's the same guy doing it.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But not surprising.
No.
Look, we almost forgot to mention that
Oh,
we
yeah.
recommend to people the famous book
It's amazing that
by
they
Eric
publish-
Blair or George Orwell, British, who worked for the BBC, about the use of manipulating language to get people to act and think and behave in certain ways. So we
Did
recommend.
he ever write under Eric Blair? Did he ever
I'm not
publish?
sure if he
No?
did or not, Eric Blair,
Okay.
but 1984, George Orwell.
Yeah.
It's happening. It's already happened. It Can't Happen Here by Sinclair Lewis, about how totalitarianism nearly came to America in the 1930s.
I think it's here now.
I think you're right. Call it totalitarianism or fascism, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah,
but it's
call them both.
here.
It's
So we
here.
recommend this as well.
You're
Now
friendly
look, that's
fascists.
supplemental funding.
Yeah.
Okay, Bush is going to veto the bill.
Yeah.
and that means the Democrats will have to come up with another bill. Okay, they're willing apparently to compromise and say something like they will offer set benchmarks, but without specific dates for withdrawal, although sometime in 2008. And but the benchmarks, the Iraqi government will have to apportion the oil revenue, equally, quote. They will have to hold elections to set up provincial governments, and they will have to allow, remember the former Ba'ath, Saddam's political party, to now receive government jobs.
But as I understand it, the way the oil revenues are going to be equally distributed is the United States is going to get 80%.
Right, in Britain. Yeah, that's absurd. But anyway, so look for this bill to be vetoed, and then we'll see what happens after that. Now, there's a debate in South Carolina, and Dennis Kucinich and former Alaska Senator Mike Gravel stood out. And he said, the people are fed up, and as president, I will do a 180 and move this country in the opposite direction. He's the guy who released the Pentagon Papers to certain, forget where.
Before they went to the New York Times.
Yeah, and he was the one-man filibuster that led to the end of the military draft. He drafted legislation to end funding for the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Okay. He served from 69 to 81.
Well, wasn't it Morris and he the two senators who
No,
voted
Ernest
against?
Gruning.
Oh, Gruning, yeah.
Yeah,
But he was from Alaska too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, so they
Gravel,
were-
I think, Gravel took his place because he served
okay.
from 1969.
Oh, okay. all
And
right.
the Gulf of Tonkin
Yeah,
was
65,
1964,
yeah.
August, remember?
Yeah.
So anyway, so he's a real fierce critic of the of both wars, actually now, and government secrecy. So look for, I like him. I may have to go to one of his
Well, didn't
speeches.
he also say to make it a felony for any United States soldier to be in Iraq?
I think so.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good. That would make him think twice.
Yeah. By the way,
And they could do that.
speaking of Kucinich, he introduced a resolution here. What's it called? House Resolution 333.
333, yeah.
And it's to impeach
yeah.
Vice President Cheney,
Yeah.
probably the
Well,
worst criminal in our government,
except for Bush.
except for Bush. Well, they're about co-equal, I think.
Bush is president.
Okay, you're right. Well, no, Cheney's president.
Well, yeah, but Bush has got
But,
the office.
But the fact is that Kucinich asked other people on the stage with him, was there 7 or 8 Democratic candidates?
I didn't see it.
Maybe the moderator. Who will join Representative Kucinich in supporting this? Not even Gravel. I
Gravel?
don't think. Didn't read.
Oh, he must
Maybe he
have.
did.
He must have.
But the other 6
Why
or so.
wouldn't he not? Well,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
Anyway,
Now,
so
of course they wouldn't. They're the same, cut from the same mold as the same cloth
That's
as
true.
these other people.
look, George Tenet, former CIA director on 60 Minutes last night, has just got a new book coming out called In the Center of the Storm. I saw it, you didn't. I was almost nauseated, and I felt this person who's trying to rescue his reputation and good name, he said, if you get that poster behind you, Richard, let's show that to the audience here. If you just grab that, can you grab it? Right there? Yeah. Okay. George Tenet received the Medal of Freedom. And we know that he was part of the deception. We
Sure.
know
He went along with it.
he did. And for him to say what he did in his book, just is despicable, I think.
Yeah, the whole
So
war
any
is.
money that he receives from that, royalties from that book, ought to be going to the relatives,
The
families of
these
the
soldiers.
33,351.
Including and that wounded is far, that's wrong. We shouldn't even put that in there because there's a lot more
It's a lot
wounded
more,
from that.
we know that. But
Probably a lot more dead.
and of course-
Because they don't count friendly fire deaths. Like Tillman, Pat Tillman.
it's not included.
He's
in
not
this.
included in this one. He's
Yeah.
not that one.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think this is just Iraq, isn't it? It's not even Afghanistan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right.
But you're
He
right.
died in
Even in Afghanistan, it wouldn't be included.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Well,
anyway, so Tenet, if you want, you'll hear more about George Tenet in his book. Okay, annual terrorism report. They weren't going to release it last year. Condi Rice,
more terrorism than ever.
29%.
Condi lying again.
You know, I did see an
That's
excerpt
all
on
we've been saying
television
for the last 5
on
years.
Sunday, and she again. It's just the audacity
Yeah.
of this person.
She presumes we're all really stupid.
Oh.
That's what she does.
Well, anyway, so that's from Condi Rice and the State Department annual report on terrorism.
Up 29%?
Well, the radio report said 25. This article says 29%, and
Yeah.
this is dated April 28th. So, all right. What about the French warning us that they knew that an attack was coming. Of course, a year, I think it was, before.
Sure, we all knew that. Bush had his own little paper, his Morning Review, which he never read.
Well, the famous one that Connie Rice was, remember, forced to read in front of that 9/11
The August
commission.
6th report.
Bin Laden determined to strike in U.S.
Yeah.
on 1 month, exactly 1 month
Right,
before,
yeah.
and no warnings were sent to
No
airports.
warnings were sent to anybody. No one
Nothing,
knew about
nothing.
that.
Exactly. Well, look, we're getting near the end here, and trauma severe for Iraqi children.
Mm.
You know, if you got a conscience at all, it's got to break your heart
Oh, yeah.
to know that we have traumatized that entire country, but particularly the young
And the
children.
cancers coming out of that from our weapons.
Of
our
depleted uranium.
The sanctions, they killed over half a million.
500,000. Right.
But people don't even know about that.
Yeah,
They don't care
and
about it.
let's get it straight. We don't condone 9/11. But when
No.
bin Laden said one of the reasons why there was this attack and other attacks was because of that 500,000 children,
Yeah, the
because of the American military
Because
bases
the
near
United
sacred.
States of America does not care about other peoples at all.
No, the unconditional support for Israel and what's happened to the Palestinian children as well,
No, yeah.
and women.
It's just disgraceful.
So these children here, it says in this particular article that it looks like these will be a new generation of terrorists, if you will, or
Oh, yeah.
insurgents,
You-
okay? They've all experienced some kind of psychological trauma, whether they witnessed a murder or survived a kidnapping attempt. When they witness violence, they're more likely to display aggressive and reckless behavior later.
Yeah, that's
And
not
so
unusual. That's PTSD.
This Iraqi doctor and most of the psychologists and psychiatrists have either been murdered or they fled. There are very few available for counseling and therapy. That they could become the next generation of fighters and fuel violence for years to come. Well, okay, I think it's time for us to say we have to close. So patriotism, Emma Goldman once said, is a menace to liberty. Patriotism is a religion, the egg from which wars are hatched. And we say, A.J. Musty chapter, there is no way to peace.
way to peace.
Peace
Peace
is the way. Thank you for viewing. Good night. Good luck. Until next time.